Hi, I'm Pam Hayes from Hayes Sewing Machine Company, and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to do a quick placemat, decorative placemat, and a big mug slash snack rug.
Okay.
And the panel that I chose to work with today, let me just make sure I get it upright, is fish. And it also has a turtle on there, just for in good measure. You'll also notice that it has borders, and that's where I utilized the border that you see on the placemat. So when I cut it out, you'll notice there is kind of a gold line, and I basically just cut 1/4 inch. That way, beyond that, that way I knew where to, I had a seam allowance, basically. Alrighty. So, to do the placemat, I cut my piece. I left roughly 3/4 inch all the way around, but where the border was going to go on, I only did a 1/4 inch seam. So I'm going to take and I'm going to line that up. I'm working with just my regular straight stitch normal foot. If you wanted to use your 1/4 inch foot, that would be fine. And I'm just going to sew these guys down. And then when I'm done, I'm going to press the seam flat because I'm going to be putting some fusible fleece in here, and it'll just adhere a little bit better if the seam is flat. Alrighty. So at this point, ta-da! Okay, so I have my decorative bit
Cute.
there. Okay, so I'm going to take this guy and I'm just going to press the seam open. So think about it, if you've done clothing before, we're just going to press that seam flat. So it's just going to lay a lot flatter. Now, we're going to take our fusible fleece, and I'm going to line up my fusible fleece. And I need a little flatter surface, sorry, than my lap. So when I line this up, okay, I'm just going to take my scissors. And we're just going to go. Now, I'm also getting rid of this white area because that's not going to be in my placemat. Now, if you deemed it that you wanted it to be there, go for it. And we're just going to trim this up a little bit. Okay. So, back over to the iron. And we're going to give it a press. When you're working with any fusible, make sure you hold it for like 3 seconds. Try not to get my plastic bag on my iron. So hold it for about 10 seconds.
10 or 3?
10. If I said 3, I'm sorry. All right, so I'm just going to go move it. You want to give the glue a little bit of chance to melt. So don't think of this as like ironing a shirt when you're kind of moving the iron backwards and forwards. Try to get to the edges. Now, if you didn't want to use fusible fleece, and you had like scraps of Warm and Natural or any other type of batting, you could work with that. But again, when you're working with it, you want to just have something that's going to give your placemat a little bit of body.
The advantage of fusible fleece is that it doesn't slip around while you're
Yep.
sewing it together.
And you don't have to quilt it afterwards. You're done. Gotta love that. All right. So now we're going to take, and I'm going to do bubbles on the back. Take a look. That's the fabric I chose because I thought that was appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to put right sides together. And you can have it a little bit bigger. It won't hurt a thing. I'm just going to do a quick cut. We're going to be trimming it up anyway. And what I did is I used the edge of the foot to the edge of the fabric. So it's a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch seam. If you wanted to do a 1/4 inch seam, that'd be fine too. I don't think your placemat would know whether it was 1/8 of an inch bigger or smaller. If you were worried about it, you could put some pins in here, but it doesn't seem to be shifting very much. And we're going to sew basically around, but please do leave an opening. And I left an opening at the side. And I'll show you what I mean. So you see where I started.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you leave yourself a little bit of an opening, like 6 inches or so. Back stitch. That way you have someplace to turn this around. Because I wanted to basically treat this like a big pillow, and I didn't want to have to bind it. All right, I like trimming across. And I kind of angle the corners a little bit, reduce the bulk. Okay, so you kind of angle it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to trim all the way around. Do the same thing, kind of angle it. If you want to, and you have enough placemats in your life, at this point, this would also be a really cool pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just stuff it.
Oh, neat.
So there's a lot of kind of different things you can do very easily. So again, just try to angle the corners a little bit. All right. Turn this guy around. So whenever you leave an opening, I try to leave an opening that I can put my hand in. That way it just makes life a little easier to turn it around. And I'm just going to top stitch this, and I will close the opening with the top stitch. And I'm going to be a good person today and use my point turner as opposed to normally the pair of scissors that I use.
Mm-hmm. You do the scissors and you poke through the end and you're like, oh, I should have got the poke turner.
All right, so we're going to go, again, just see how the corners look nice because we took the time to grade them a little bit. Okay, so back over to the iron. All right, so we're going to try to get it so I don't see too much of the bubbles on the right side. All right, so we're just going to, again, kind of roll the seam a little bit. I like that turtle. I thought he was cute. All right, now when you go and you have that opening, we're just going to tuck it in. Try not to tuck it in too much. You want the black to look somewhat uniform. Okay, now, when we go back over, we're going to change presser feet. I'm working on my Bernina today, so I'm going to be working with the 10C foot. That's an edge stitching foot. So we're going to change the foot, and that's just going to help me keep straight. And I'm going to move my needle position over to the left. And I'm also going to tell the machine that I have that foot on. Now, I did also take the time to have black thread on the top and blue thread underneath in the bobbin. So we're going to line this up. So keep the guide of the foot lined up. And it just helps keep you straight. So if you're sewing a pocket on, stitching around a collar or a cuff, and you want your top stitching to look really right on the money, this would be a good time. And if you're working with something like a really thick, say you're working with a batting that's a little thicker, remember to increase your length of stitch. So instead of being on your traditional 2.5, you make it up to 3.5. It'll just make the top stitch look that much nicer, and a little smoother. And again, we're just going to go all the way around. I've already closed that opening. All right, and then when I go, I'm just going to...
So you like to join on a side as opposed to a corner?
I do. All right. So then we are all good to go. So if you take a look, see how I did blue thread for the back and then black thread for the front. All right. Now, I'm not going to show you because I think you guys can get it, but you're going to do exactly the same thing for your mug rug. So you see how I trimmed it and I left 3/4 of an inch all the way around the outside edge. I have already put my fusible fleece on. So what are we going to do? We're going to take our bubbles, we're going to line it up, stitch around, remember, leave an opening, and then do the same thing you did for the placemat. Nice quick gift, and we'll see you next time.